Yo, what up YouTube, what up UFC fans? Victor Conte was recently on Joe Rogan podcast, and he gave his thoughts on how many MMA fighters he thinks are using performance-enhancing drugs. And if you don't know, Victor Conte is one of the most notoriously known for basically running a Balco scandal where he was distributing and applying performance-enhancing drugs. But now Victor Conte has revamped his whole image, and he actually provides consulting services to many professional athletes, including boxers, and many of the top athletes, really take advantage of his consulting because of his scientific approach on how to condition yourself and how to, he really has a real detailed regimen where you're recovering, you're resting, and you're restoring your body. So, obviously for a fight. So, Victor Conte actually revealed that he thinks, out of all MMA fighters, he thinks about 50% are using performance-enhancing drugs. That's a huge number. In terms of, recent fighters that have tested positive, we know Chael Sonnen tested positive. We know Alistair Overeem tested positive. So those are two big names in MMA. We know, I think Brock Lesnar might have tested positive. I don't know about that one, but he went on to reveal from his sources he was told that Bob Sapp, the legendary fucking K1 fighter, who, if you go back and you look at it, like, he was a monster when he was fighting in Pride and K1, so, you would think you'd have some suspicions that he would be on the juice. But apparently, he was told that a bunch of tetrahydrogesterone, also known as the clear, so that's the same shit that Shane Mosley got before his fight against Oscar De La Hoya. Conte said his understanding is this stuff was all over the NFL, and I guess during the time he was out of the NFL, there was a period of time where Bob Sapp played Canadian football, and then he went to Japan to do K1 fighting. But the stuff was widely distributed. That was his understanding. And then he went on to say, he doesn't really involve directly in MMA, but Conte has worked with other UFC fighters, including Kyle Kingsbury. But there are other top UFC fighters that do come to Victor Conte for consulting, but the thing is, just for reputation purposes, they keep it on the low. So, the media they don't reveal that they're going to Victor Conte for his services. However, I do think he has cleaned up his act to a degree, and many championship fighters have no qualms in admitting that they go to Victor Conte for his help and guidance, because he has a very scientific method to conditioning athletes, and it's definitely something that really helps training camps of fighters. So Conte went on to say it's not about mega doses of anything. It's just about correcting weak links or depletions and deficiencies. And he went on to go in about how the athletic commissions, they rarely test for any significant new performance-enhancing drugs like EPO, like that hormone, human growth hormone, HGH. So he went on to say, I talk to a lot of athletes out there about who's doing what, and they're frank with him. Apparently one of the top training centers in North Carolina has a number of UFC fighters, and he asked the owner of the facility, what percentage of athletes, what percentage of his athletes were using drugs, because he was asking him to help some of his athletes. And apparently Victor Conte said, well, I can't help athletes that are using drugs. So he, in a way, he has cleaned up his act. And apparently 8 out of the 16 fighters that were using drugs were in the UFC. So that says a lot about the UFC fighters using performance-enhancing drugs, and it says a lot about the lack of testing in the UFC. These guys are ripped and these guys are juiced up. And state commissions don't test for EPO, which is like blood doping. And they don't test for synthetic testosterone. And there's a lot of shit that they don't test for. That's why in boxing, it's almost thanks to Floyd Mayweather, because he's the one that really brought this to light, where he wanted Olympic-style drug testing for his fights. And now that's rampant in boxing, where many fighters are volunteering to do that sort of advanced drug testing. And in my opinion, it's only a matter of time before this drug testing goes over to the UFC. So it's definitely interesting to see how that will develop. But for now, it is what it is, guys. Peace out, take care.